Welcome to Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and Thisdaylive begins now. I'd like to welcome today's panelists, Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, Wale Gomez, Public Affairs Analyst, and Professor Bola Akintenrewa, Director General, Polytech Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Thisdaylive.
Thank you.
Now, we begin here in Nigeria, where President Muhammadu Buhari has dismissed reports of his intention to run for another term in office. He says he won't make the mistake of attempting to have a third term in office. President Buhari, who is 76 years old, says he's constitutionally bound to serve 2 terms. The president believes history would also be fair to members of the All Progressives Congress if the ruling party collapses after his 2nd term. He's urging every member of the National Executive Committee of the APC to ensure dominance in their constituencies politically. Well, I guess this is important, considering the fact that across Africa, either in Zimbabwe or in Zambia or in so many other parts of Africa.
Gabon.
In where?
In Gabon.
Gabon, Democratic Republic of Congo. Also, you know, you have many of these African leaders trying to violate the constitution and extend their tenure in office, even in Guinea Equatorial, you know, and you know they become seat-tight leaders. And even here in Nigeria, we have had some experience with third term, confirmed, not confirmed, but at least there was an attempt, which failed, even if the president at the time
which was done
denied any involvement. You know, he said it was some unscrupulous fellows trying to violate the constitution. So I guess it's reassuring that President Buhari is saying, look, he will not attempt a third term. And I guess he had to say that because, you know, the social media bill, the fake speech bill, some people have said is linked to, those 2 bills are linked to an attempt to shut down free expression in the event that the president wants a 3rd term. But he also said a lot about the party. He talked in terms of legacy issues, you know, and also tried to address members of the APC. So 2 issues before us. The president saying he won't do a 3rd term, and what he had to say at that meeting about the party, his own party, and also there is a 3rd issue, the attempt to review, you know, APC's performance in the last elections. Who do I start with? I start with you, Gomez.
Thank you very much. I think the president had to come out with this statement that he's not going for the 3rd time for his own credibility and his own image, and also for people to know that he is above board in all this shenanigans in this country. And if he did not nip it in the bud, like you said, the social media will go to town with it, and they have to find a way of cutting it before it feathers itself around the whole place. He has said it, we believe him, and on the issue of the analysis of the APC or his party, the jury is still out. The Nigerians are looking at them, and hopefully they will perform as they promise they will. Our president, I believe, and I want to believe, that he meant what he said.
Okay.
Yes, Chike, what do you think?
For me, really, you know, the lawyer in me abhors all this kind of unconstitutionality and, you know, illegalities. To even discuss them is a problem for me. That is the truth. So I find it odd sitting in an open forum like that and talking about something as unconstitutional as a 3rd term for anybody. You know, it's something that should be dead on arrival. It's not something anybody should think about. But like Mr. Gomez said, I commend the president for coming up, because you see, it's the praise singers behind the shadows. They are the ones that stir these things up. Even like you said at the time that other attempt was made. So it is good he has shut that down, because that will have taken a life of his own, and there will have been another hysteria to go on with that. Of course, all these things distract and deter governance. Then, as per the issue of the party, there was just one statement the president made, which I don't really understand, because papers are reporting it differently. Yes, something about he cannot afford to be reckless, or he cannot afford to be reckless. I don't know which one it is. But what I thought I read, and what I saw in most of the things I read, was that he said he can now afford to be reckless, because he's not going to ask for anybody's votes. Well, I didn't understand that, and I don't know where that is coming from. He is bound by the Constitution, the same Constitution he himself said that, he has sworn to uphold. He swore with the Quran. So, and that Constitution, I can assure him, cannot give him the leeway to be reckless. So he should forget about being reckless. He should work within the Constitution and deliver to Nigerians within this time. And, I would like to advise Mr. President, I keep saying it. If for any reason, Mr. President was never the president of Nigeria, Nigerians would never have believed that. In fact, they would dub him after Awolowo the next best president that, we never had, or the best president we never had. So he needed to come in, and I'm sure he saw the kind of political space he had to operate in, which has more or less compromised everything we held high about him. Because some of the people that surround him, my God, I don't know.
That was you are saying that President Buhari has been demystified.
Oh, totally. It's obvious for everybody to see. And he has 3 years or less than that to try and correct it, because he needs to leave a legacy. Right now, I can't see anything I can hold and say this is Mr. President's legacy for such a great leader that we had been looking for, that the masses had been yearning for. Don't forget, Mr. President had a mass appeal to come out with. This is almost an anticlimax.
Prof, I would like to have... Okay, yes, go ahead.
But
Please go ahead.
While I'm not holding forth for the president that people were yearning for was a lot younger than what they have now. Yeah. So his age is not allowing... That's why he said he can afford to be reckless now. The things he could say prior to this new dispensation, he couldn't say it then, but now he's trying to be telling you that he's now free to express himself. Let's wait and see.
Prof, let me come to you, and I hope you will respond to the point raised by Chike about recklessness and about
how we create
legacy.
Problem in Nigeria begins from the way a Chike, a Wale will argue. Nigeria is in trouble because Nigerians are always quick to comment. We are commending Buhari for telling us that he will not be interested in the third term. Like we do have a war that you prepare for. And we also do have a war that is imposed on people. So do we have a situational reality in which you may not want to be interested in a third term, but will come back as a result of force majeure to say, you are there, you are going to contest. I try to disagree with both my brother Wale and Ogea that, look, we need to explicate what prompted Buhari to come out and say he's not interested. I'm particularly glad with the later part of the submission of the former Honorable Commissioner of Information, who said that he had not seen any pointer to the possibility of having any legacy in the future. The bitter truth is that it is on record that Femi Falana now pointed to some critical actions of government of President Muhammadu Buhari to suggest that a foundation is being laid for the possibility of a third term. That's the genesis. Go and look at that. Then when you take a critical look at these pointers, you will now discover that we are now returning to a Muhammadu Buhari of yesteryears when he was a military president. We are now being reminded of Decree 2, Decree 4. We are now being told about how, for instance, people can be kept quiet, silent. So, people now think that, look, when you talk about recklessness, what does it really mean in terms of politology? Recklessness simply means that, look, he will prevail, all right, on any given situation without due regard, not even to law, not even to whatever. It is on record that President Muhammadu Buhari told us that he prefers national security first before rule of law. So he prefers national security to rule of law, whereas national security is supposed to be defined, conditioned, explicated by rule of law. So if he's now telling us that he's not interested in a third term, that is at best declaratory. There's absolutely nothing within the framework of recklessness that he cannot impose himself.
I think we should hold the president to his word.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should not believe in him, but you should also allow people like us who believe, because I know quite well that political governance in Nigeria...
He referred to the Holy Book. He talked about his commitment to the Constitution. And I know that, many Nigerians may be skeptical and say that an administration led by him that has not been so faithful to the rule of law is now quoting the Constitution.
We have been using Constitution, the Bible, the Quran to do and undo in Nigeria.
It's a very good development.
You see the same thing.
And I think that with a sense of history, the president himself may have realized that in other parts of the world, including Bolivia most recently, where leaders try to violate the Constitution, the consequences have been very dire and negative. And
the point I'm making is the environmental conditioning of Nigeria. He may not want to.
Yes, the people, the opportunistic people who may want to reenact that kind of politics, they are now having on record
and
saying
guidelines.
that respect the Constitution is very clear.
But we have been told, look, he's surrounded by Holy Ghost everywhere. Now, the issue is simply that when they talk about cabal, people have argued that
we cannot turn ourselves into mind readers.
Yes.
Exactly.
We stay with what the president has said.
I agree.
And we hold him down to that.
The environment
and we're watching.
And also join him in saying that the Constitution of Nigeria is supreme.
It's paramount.
And anything done contrary to that Constitution
and I would like to,
is null and void.
if I could have a last word, all I would like to say about this is that a third term can never work in Nigeria.
We know, we will kick against it.
It will never.
And it's unacceptable. Anyway, let's take the next subject. The Nigerian Senate has begun another process of amending the 2010 Electoral Act. Propositions, those promoting the bill to amend the 2010 Electoral Act, have included comprehensive amendments to the Principal Act, which is a response in part to a plethora of Supreme Court decisions. The proposed legislation mandates INEC, the Electoral Commission, to accommodate new technologies in the accreditation of voters during elections. The proposed bill enacts a new Section 87 on nomination of candidates by parties for elections by prescribing maximum fees payable by aspirants and restricting nomination criteria strictly to relevant provisions of the Constitution. The Act forbids members of political parties from taking on employment in INEC, mandates INEC to publish the voters' register for public scrutiny at every registration area and on its website at least 7 days before general elections. We take a quick commercial break now. When we return, we'll discuss this. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me in the studio, I have Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information Delta State, Wale Gomez, public affairs analyst, and Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Director General of the Polytech Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Now, before we went on break, we were talking about the Electoral Amendment Bill passing the second reading in the Senate. You recall that this particular bill has been quite controversial. Before the 2019 elections, the National Assembly had sent this bill to President Buhari for his assent, but he declined on the grounds that, look, the elections were around the corner, and that giving his assent to the bill will have amounted to creating confusion in terms of what the rules of the game were, both for voters and also for the stakeholders, the other stakeholders. Now, this time around, the Ninth Assembly has taken up this bill, and of course, one of the issues that came up at the National Executive Committee meeting of INEC was the president commending this Ninth Assembly for being very supportive, for being very cooperative. So it looks like maybe this time around, the president will sign the Electoral Amendment Bill. And all of this, of course, is based on the reform of the electoral system. And Chike, you are looking for legacy. Maybe this is one area where President Buhari can leave a legacy.
That would be the best.
In terms of reforming the electoral system.
Chike,
let me start with you.
Yeah, definitely. You see, some of these things, I don't like commenting about them because they are repugnant to my training. I keep saying it. I'm almost sounding like a broken record as a lawyer. You see, anything that muscles freedom will meet my immediate frowning and most likely even irritation. So like you rightly said, if President Buhari can clean up our electoral system and give us something that is definite, not something that will promote, leave loopholes for the elections being killing fields, maiming fields, burning arson, and all we've been saying. Look at what happened. I mean, is it not, I don't know what word to use, what happened in Kogi State. How can that be called an election? It's getting really worrying. But like I said, without getting emotional, let's look at that bill, like you said. The truth is, I don't know. Is it actually Senator Sabi, the one that used to be the House spokesman in the 8th Assembly?
It was Sabi
or is it
Abdullahi that proposed the
bill,
creation of a commission to prohibit hate speech.
Okay.
That's one by Senator Sabi Abdullahi, former spokesperson.
The funny thing is that when you take
But this is the electoral bill we're talking about.
Okay, the electoral bill.
Yeah.
You see, but basically, like I said to you, maybe I should let my colleagues have a word in. Let us clean our electoral system.
Reform of the electoral system by reviewing the law. This proposed electoral bill talks about technology, electronic voting, particularly, and electronic transmission of results from polling booths. It says INEC must have a database, and that database must be kept alive until all litigations arising from election are determined, and that in the future INEC should not come around and say that it does not have a database, it does not have a server, or the database has been shut down. It introduces a new Section 87 to the electoral law dealing with qualification for elections. And it says this, provision, once a person is qualified under the relevant provisions of the Constitution, including Sections 107 and Section 182, the person should be considered qualified. It also talks about in Section 35, of the Electoral Act. A plethora of fresh recommendations based on recent experience. What do you think?
Garbage in, garbage out.
What does that mean?
You can have new technologies. The equipment will not work by itself. The database you are talking about is going to be made functional on the basis of garbage in. All right? If whoever is going to be in charge is fraudulent, the extent to which garbage out can reflect what to garbage in, all right, remains a different question entirely. I appreciate the fact that at least the electoral bill has gone through the second reading. It's good. You see, the issue is that if we go electronic, the extent of fraud might be reduced, even if those who will be in charge still maintain very fraudulent mind. The issue is that I am more interested in a provision on independent candidature. A situation whereby every individual, Chike would tell us his preference, his love for freedom. Let that expression of freedom be reflected in this type of amendment in such a way that one will not be compelled to be a member of a political party before you can contest. Because the way we have it as of today, there is no room for independent candidacy. You must go through a political party for you to qualify. All right. Then when you talk about having qualifications, well, the existing provisions provide for qualifications too. The problem is the interpretation of that particular qualification. All right. For instance, have
and it should include the ability to be able to speak English, understandable English.
I read and write very well.
Because
No,
somebody was just elected governor, and Nigerians have been protesting that the man doesn't seem to be able to speak acceptable English.
Our constitution provides for the use of some local languages, especially even in the National Assembly, as part of official languages. So if anyone is unable to speak English, we may not talk about illegality, illegitimacy, and so on and so forth. Okay. That's
No, Section 55 of the Nigerian Constitution says parliamentary proceedings can only be conducted in four languages: English, Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo.
Meaning now that when you talk about the rule of primus inter pares, English does not, all right, it's not the first. You can use any of the four.
Yes, you need a translator.
But broken is not.
How about having a governor who cannot speak English?
And broken.
Gomez, let me have your own input to this.
We're becoming a joke as a country. For us to clean out our system, they're trying to bring in electronic format for the the new law to change our electronic system, our voting system and pattern. And personally, I feel that we're putting the cart before the horse. And I think we need to build a structure first. You cannot want to bring an electronic system without a good electrical system where everything works. Because you're saying that people will go to vote, and while they're voting, you're transmitting, the power goes off. That would be a good excuse.
No, but we all use, phones.
Yeah, but these phones, they are dependent on infrastructure. What if the base stations, they are not diesel to fire it and all that?
Yeah.
So you are saying Nigeria is not ready for electronic
Yes, we have to get our technology right.
You see, nothing will work in Nigeria without that. I'm telling you that we have to be 100% NEPA free.
And but the amendment necessarily compels, all right, INEC to get that particular infrastructure you are talking about in place.
Okay.
Well, Prof raised the point about independent candidacy. And there are many persons who believe that independent candidacy is important. And indeed, in some parts of Africa, you have independent candidates. I mean, some persons have gone into parliament as independent candidates.
Oh, yes.
Say, for example, in Uganda, Bobby Wine, I think, got there as an independent. But how about diaspora voting? Gomez can comment on that. You as a
diaspora. You're throwing stones.
as a once upon a time diaspora.
I honestly feel that it's time for us to start.
Diaspora voting.
Yes, because sometimes, those that are there, because I'm here now, those who are there, they know more about Nigeria more than we, the Nigerians, are here. Now, they feel for Nigeria. And it will be right for them to cast their own vote.
Vote in our diplomatic mission.
Yes, go to a diplomatic mission. They won't have electrical issues like people in England or America. Just go there, vote, and transmit it like you're transmitting anywhere in Nigeria. You could transmit anywhere in the world. And let's have it. Let people have the right to choose who they want as Nigerians.
But do we have a consensus that the electoral bill needs to be amended?
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
And that the entire electoral system needs to be reformed?
Not with what we saw 2 weeks ago in Kogi.
Definitely.
The
The electoral law as we have it now has so many loopholes and so many flaws, like you said, that these politicians are exploiting.
They're exploiting
and that is, and it is to the advantage of them, because you see, once things are not definite, then you can have so many. In fact, what we have now
options.
is really election by the judiciary, if you ask me. The amount of cases that have been decided by the judiciary.
That's Professor Akinterewa's position.
Yes, it just shows that the people are not even the ones making the choices anymore, because our system is too weak.
But I have a question. I have a question for you. Will electronic voting prevent putting a politician in the house, lock all the doors, set it ablaze?
Send them.
All right. How do we explain that?
What's happened to the PDP women leader in Kogi State in the last government?
How do we address that?
Let me answer you, Prof. These are two parallel lines. You see, the desperation of our politics is one thing. Our weak systems of elections is the second thing. One fires the other, no doubt, because when people know that there are all these loopholes to profit from, that's when they have to do anything to get in. But once these things are more definite, and they find out that if you kill someone, even after killing the person, you don't get in, what is the point? Well, it is because there's so much confusion in the system. That is why they profit from this kind of behavior. So clean up our electoral act, and you find all this kind of brigandage, will start being reduced.
And your point also is valid, that we need to take electoral offenses more seriously and punish electoral offenders once they are identified.
I will take
we'll take a short commercial break now.
I take it to a higher level than the hate speech.
Well, and the conversation will continue. Don't go away. Welcome back to Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me in the studio, I have Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, Wale Gomez, Public Affairs Analyst, and Professor Bola Akinterewa, Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. And we'll be looking at a number of issues in Nigeria. First, President Buhari's denial and rejection of a third-term bid, as it may be, and also the proposed electoral amendment bill, which has passed the second stage of reading in the Senate. Now let's head over to the United Kingdom, where Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, on Thursday confirmed that he will be stepping back from public duties in an attempt to contain the firestorm over his ties to the disgraced financier and pedophile and sex trafficker, as it was described, Jeffrey Epstein, to protect the image of the British royal family. Prince Andrew's lack of regret over associating with a convicted sex offender. So your point about alleged there.
I thought he died before conviction.
No, but he had been previously indicted, and then he committed suicide in another.
He was in jail.
Yes, he was in a facility. So the Prince Andrew's lack of regret over associating with a convicted sex offender was one thing, but it was his apparent lack of empathy for the victims that has drawn the most criticism. The onslaught from the British media was unrelenting, while numerous organizations distanced themselves from the prince and his charities. The Duke of York says he deeply sympathizes with the victims of the disgraced financier and is willing to help any appropriate law enforcement agency with their investigations. His announcement comes days after the prince's widely criticized television interview with the BBC, which saw the prince accused of utterly lacking compassion for the victims of Epstein, who killed himself earlier this year. Now, I mean, this has been a big problem for the British monarchy. You have a palace, a monarchy in crisis on account of the interview that was granted BBC Newsnight by Prince Andrew. And the position of royal biographers is that he should never have done that interview in the first place. He should have kept quiet. But he went ahead, personal decision it seems, and he created a storm, creating news that almost became bigger than the election itself, bigger than the debate between Corbyn and Boris Johnson. And then he had a meeting with the Queen and with his brother, Prince Charles. And the outcome of that is that he has now said he will step back from public duties for the foreseeable future. What the foreseeable future means remains to be defined. And the monarchy, the British monarchy, is trying to manage public perception. But what do you think? What does it say about the monarchy in Britain? I think it's Gomez that has the dual nationality.
It's my turn today. It's all right. It's no problem. Yes, I do have it. The issue here is that the monarchy is going through a lot these days. Starting from the day where Boris Johnson gave a kind of a simple letter for the Queen to sign without reading it and giving a mess about 2 months ago. Now
That's this is prorogation.
Yeah, and he signed it, and he just found out that it was not the right thing to do. Then this one came up again, and they are really managing. There are some people in the British public that don't really believe in the monarchy. So the Queen is trying to make sure that she cleans out the system quick before it becomes a major issue. And I feel that the image of the system, the image of the monarchy, is in tatters right now, and they need to, because they're not used to this. They're used to being pampered and everything goes smooth and they are the cream and everything until all things like this start happening. And people are now saying that they're just ordinary people and they could have their own faults and they will hatch on it to the point that they could bring down the monarchy. And that's the problem.
But why should anybody be surprised about Prince Andrew? Hasn't he always been considered the black leg of the family?
That's right.
The black sheep of
I
the
think
family?
he's the one they refer to as Randy Andy.
Randy Andy, yeah. He's the one that has been the one that's been their problem. And then Yoruba plans says that family lukoba toro omo ale nu eni oki.
No. I don't want to translate that into English. No.
Because you say we can say
that's a bit of color. Then you can have children, and then you have one of them
that is not that, and that is the issue with Andrew. He's just being a wayward person.
Maybe it's just been Andrew. But you see, for me, really, like you said, that interview was a mistake because he could have read the public mood and seen that, there were a lot of victims that had suffered from this man. And eventually, like you said, the man had even committed suicide, and there was all that problem. And he was supposed to have this relationship with the man's girlfriend, and he says...
Well, a lady called Victoria Roberts Gilfred.
That's right.
Who insists that when she was 17,
yes,
that, she was abused and violated by Prince Andrew.
Exactly. And he spends time with him in his house, maybe some exotic island and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the minute he saw that... No, what I mean, there's nothing wrong with his relationship with Epstein or whatever. Yeah, but the minute he found out that this was the kind of person he was, and then all these other issues with him as a person, he would have stepped back quietly and not exposed, like he said. You see, because times are changing, and the monarchy itself needs to reform. That's what the Queen is trying to do, to keep them relevant. And when they keep getting this kind of hits from, this kind of behaviors from Andrew, it puts them in bad light, and it makes them look distasteful. And I think that is what they're
Prof,
trying to do.
What do you think? Gloria Alfred, counsel to many of Epstein's victims, and her daughter, who is also a lawyer, they both said that, look, it's not enough for Prince Andrew to say, I will cooperate with any investigating agency. They say that he must immediately submit himself to the FBI in the US to tell the FBI what he knows. And it's not enough for him to just promise. What do you think?
Before I respond to the question,
Yes.
let me say I disagree with Shike. He said that association, relationship between Epstein and Andrew, nothing is wrong with that.
Yeah, if they were friends.
Well, I think that
can be friends.
Well, I think the relationship was very fraudulent. It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
You only need to check the record. You should have heard about this lady called Tiffany Doe. She's an employee of Epstein. He told us how she was relating with Andrew. He told us the number of times Andrew was going to the pedophile meetings, flew together. In fact, I can quote because I noted that she said, I quote, I always thought Andrew liked my breasts. When he started to say hello, he looked at them first rather than me. End of quote.
Most men do that, don't they? Do that.
No, hold on. Look, yes, you see, that's the person of Andrew.
Yes.
You may say he's wayward, he's the problem to the monarch, etc. But the point he's trying to say here is that, look, Epstein organized all these meetings. They use his aircraft, all right? They always go together. They were doing all this. If Epstein is wayward, is bad a person, and you are now saying that the
If it is wayward, then and Andy is wayward,
Then
what is the problem?
Show me your friend, I'll tell you who you are.
Is it because one is blue blood?
Yeah, I'm saying that.
And one is the red blood.
I'm only trying to say that the relationship itself is wrong. All right? It's not good enough for somebody who will put on the paraphernalia of...
Prof, but that's subjective. That's your own definition. That could be his best friend. You can't say it's wrong now.
It's wrong because, look, please, we discussed the issue of professorial people the other time.
No, I think the big issue is that once Epstein was indicted,
Yes.
it was assumed that, you know,
You should just open up and say,
the
hey.
Duke of York, given his background
Yeah.
and his place in society,
Yes.
should have avoided
That-
close association
Yes.
and should have...
Monarchical
passed them back.
status.
Yes.
Should reflect dignity,
decorum,
decorum, precisely.
An example, fine example.
So
for
you say
society.
you are prince. Prince, what makes you a prince?
But I think Chike is right when he says that what the monarchy is trying to do is to do damage control,
Yes.
is to manage public perception,
That's right.
and is to
I
keep the
agree with
British
that.
monarchy
Yes.
relevant, particularly for the benefit of those Republicans
Who are really out.
who are against, you know, the idea of the monarchy.
But beyond
but they are
beyond
in the
relevance-
minority in the UK.
They're very, very much in the minority. So.
Beyond relevance, you see, there is the need to appreciate and conserve what you have as your legacy.
That's
Yes,
right.
let's take the next subject. We'll go to the United States. Washington is still digesting the explosive testimony from a former national security official, Fiona Hill, and David Holmes, a State Department advisor in Kiev, Ukraine, capping an intense week in the historic impeachment inquiry in the United States. Fiona Hill claims that an American ambassador clearly carried out a domestic political errand for President Trump on Ukraine, undercutting a main line of defense, the president's defense in the impeachment inquiry. Fiona Hill implored the House lawmakers and implicitly the president himself to stop peddling the alternative theory that Ukraine interfered in the 2016 presidential election. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump on Friday declared he would like a full trial in the Senate if the House of Representatives votes to impeach him over Ukraine. Trump says he was angered by what he heard during this week's impeachment hearings, but he asserted that the Democrats had made fools of themselves and had absolutely nothing incriminating despite days of public testimony. We're going to take this after a commercial break, but you know, the situation now in the United States is that after 2 weeks of impeachment open hearings, 12 witnesses so far, including Ambassador Bill Taylor, Gordon Sondland, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, Fiona Hill, Tim Morrison, and Mari Yovanovich. You have the Democrats having a strong case against President Donald Trump. But Trump, like his brother in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is saying that this is an attempt at a coup, this is a presidential harassment, and this is unacceptable. But we'll take a short break. When we return, we will discuss this further. We take a short break now on Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show. Welcome back to the morning, to Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Sorry about that. You know, I do the morning show Monday to Friday, so it's stuck somewhere in my head. Exactly. But this is Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show, and I still have with me in the studio Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, Wale Gomez, a public affairs analyst, and Professor Bola Akintenewa, Director General of the Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. We were talking about the impeachment inquiry in the United States by the House Intelligence Committee. And, there have been very important depositions from Ambassador B. Taylor to Jennifer Williams. I didn't mention Jennifer Williams earlier on, to Kurt Volker, to Ambassador Gordon Sondland, and then Mari Yovanovich and all the others that I mentioned. And then the last one, by Fiona Hill. Now, Professor Akintenewa, let me come to you. President Trump looks like he's bluffing because he knows that even if he's impeached by the House, he will survive in the Senate, where his party has the numbers to protect him.
The problem is not that. The problem is that the impeachment process will lead to an indictment, and that indictment will be on record. At least the House can begin to work on the basis of the various testimonies on the articles for impeachment. Now, from indictment, we are moving along the continuum to conviction. Now, the mere fact that the Republicans are very comfortable in the Senate by virtue of their numerical strength, and that they can kill the whatever might have transpired, whatever decision taken at the level of the House. The issue now is that the problem had to be addressed at the level of global America. What I mean is that the American electorate has been seized with this opportunity of impeachment processes. The electorate generally had seen that Donald Trump has been wearing the American domestic cap. He's been operating with the domestic mentality, but acting internationally with strange attitudinal dispositions that he does not respect, protocol. The international community has a perception of the U.S. Donald Trump as he is. And so do the people of America themselves. So when it comes to this voting for re-election purposes, I think that the impeachment has the potential to largely influence the uncommitted American voters. Many American voters, what makes the American people very great that we often ignore is their individual believe in freedom, decision taking. All right.
Choice.
They
Freedom of choice.
can be Democratic Party members, Republican members, but when it comes to issues, looking at how they will be personally, individually affected, please,
dispassionate.
they are very dispassionate. They vote liberally, and I think that the impeachment processes, and that's where the Democratic Party might have strengthened their position.
Well, in the past, I mean, some presidents were impeached, but they were not removed.
That's right.
Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton. It didn't stop Bill Clinton from...
completing his term.
Yeah.
His tenure.
But the history is there.
Yes, but
The record is there.
quickly...
Quickly, I watched some of the proceedings.
The hearings.
Yeah, hearings over there, and I couldn't believe some of the things that were said that Donald Trump was trying to create there. I couldn't believe that.
particularly from Ambassador Gordon Sondland,
Yes,
who debunked
most
of
fact
the
that-
lies
by
by the State Department and the White House.
And it showed something that America or Americans, they took out a poll and they found out that a lot of Americans say that Donald Trump was guilty. And with that scared, if I was Donald Trump, I would just be shutting up my mouth because right now, he's not looking good in the American public's eyes.
Chike, quickly, before we take one more topic.
For me, you know, in the middle of the plethora of evidence and hearings, two things were what particularly struck me. One is that some are saying he is encouraging Russia to interfere with the electoral system in America. And of course, the other side really says Ukraine is the problem.
It's the problem.
And in between the two, this is the president of America.
No, Fiona Hill debunked that.
Yes,
that
fine.
was one of our major points.
I agree. Some are saying, some are debunking.
He said Ukraine is
and all
not an
that.
adversary.
Exactly.
So
that was the kernel of her own submission. I agree. But what I'm saying is that in all of that, you begin to wonder that this is the man who is the custodian of the Constitution of the United States of America. Why should he be in that position in the first place? That tells you there's a problem. But more importantly, like Prof said, the Americans are dispassionate. They are not like us where you vote according to tribe and all that kind of thing. And you will be surprised that if eventually he's impeached, and for instance, like we know, impeachment is not removal, and he manages to weather the storm in the Senate, my prediction is that will do so much damage that he will not win that election.
Let's take one more topic. We come back to Nigeria. Babcock University, one of the private universities in Nigeria, has confirmed the expulsion of a 300-level student who was said to have been involved in a sex tape that was circulated widely. The school authorities explained that her partner had been expelled in February for acts of misconduct. It's unclear how the video leaked online between late Tuesday and Wednesday morning, but in a statement released by Babcock University, the university described the video as a sad commentary on the moral decadence that has assailed the society at large. However, most of the reactions on social media, notably on Twitter, indicate that the punishment meted out to the young lady, was too harsh, with the claims that Nigerian universities only think about punishment and not reformation or the repositioning of students to become better after having been found wanting. Here are some of the reactions from Twitter. Well, I mean, this is, this young lady had a private encounter with her boyfriend. This was during vacation. The boyfriend was in a hospital far away from the university territory, and now she had to be expelled because a sex tape, video sex tape that had been taken, probably without her consent by her boyfriend, was leaked. And now the university is acting as a moral police. Is it that you professors do not like your students, to have, mature students to have sex of their own free will? Is it a crime? Will university certificates be withdrawn if a student graduates and she has a private sexual encounter with a man she admires?
Well, when you talk, you leak a sex tape to professors. Is it only the professors that are engaged?
It's a collateral damage.
Lecturers, junior teachers, They are also involved. It's not just the professors. I made the point the other time that
admittance of
there are many professors who do not profess. When you
but in this case, this is between two students.
I'm coming. I'm trying to respond because you say, well, I'm professor, I'm this. I'm trying to debunk that. Look, this one is not the business
professor
of
is
the professor.
different.
The professor is different. Now, in this case, I believe that the university should be more interested in reforming, in preventing, rather than unnecessarily taking sanctionary measures that will not stop recurrence. You see, the issue is that, generally speaking, nowadays in the world, the issue of sex, rape, appears to be a critical issue that must be addressed.
Quickly, Gomez, what do you think? Do you think
my
that
question
the
is
Babcock University has not done well? Just one word.
Yes, my question to Mr. Ibe is that
Why, Mr. Oge?
my question to him is there's a reason for this question.
I have to interview us. Okay,
No, my question to him is can this couple or this girl can she sue the university for this?
Quickly.
Because she's a mature.
Quickly.
Well,
Should she sue? Should the university reverse it?
Certainly she can sue because, like you said, it's her freedom that is being impeded upon. But the truth is that there's a moral aspect of it. There's the legal aspect of it. She went to see her boyfriend, who is a recovering addict, obviously, who shows that he has not recovered from all the bad ways, and he does this sex tape, like you said, maybe unknown to
Does that take his fundamental right?
No,
On
it
this
doesn't.
note, we'll have to. Babcock University will have to note this.
And it's a
reverse
private
itself.
university. It has
Thank
its
you
own
very
rules.
much, Chike. You've been watching Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next Sunday. Thank you.